Hey folks, Jim Zaspel here. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone through a potential fix and flip deal and asked yourself, well gosh, should I fix this thing or not? Should I replace this item or not? That's an important question that is really, really important to get the answer on. Here's why. Because if you plan on doing too much to the house that's unnecessary, then what are you going to do? You're going to price yourself out of a deal that maybe otherwise would have made sense. Or, worst case scenario, let's say you don't budget for enough stuff to get done, then what's going to happen? You will have a buy, fix, and flip deal on your hands that you borrowed enough money on to do a certain amount of rehab on, paid probably too much for, and then because it's not rehabbed the right way, it's going to sit on the market. So, it is so critical to your success to make sure you know exactly what things are worth fixing and what is not worth fixing on your rehab project. So, the good news is, I'm here to help you, and you're going to love this training if you've ever wondered what's worth fixing and what's not. All right, so everything has to do with, falls into one of three categories, right? I have no clue how to spell aesthetics, so I'm just going to make it up, all right? Aesthetics, then we've got function. And this could also, layout, okay? And then we've got safety. And we could also put in here longevity. This is gonna rock your world. Give me 1 second. All right, so you might be thinking, we're gonna draw some nice lines here. If it's aesthetics, that's just what things look, finishes and that kind of stuff. Is it worth doing? And I will tell you that I'm going to give you some general principles to live by here, right? And that by and large, you can use this on 80% of the deals that you do. However, it is always very important to review the houses that have sold quickly in the exact market where you're looking to do your deal. So some aesthetics, things that are always important, obviously, is your flooring, right? Always worth doing, worth fixing, right? And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, you want to do hardwood instead of carpet. At least on the first floor. Second floor can be carpet, unless it's in a high-end area in the city, right? So flooring, and I'm just going to say walls, right? Walls are very important, especially paint and drywall, right? But I'll tell you, what's not worth doing is replacing your hardwood. We almost never replace the hardwood floor in a house. But Jim, I've seen these houses where there's cat piss stain all over the floors, and they're mixed matched, they're faded, they're bleached from the sun, they're 120 years old. There's no way I can salvage those. Well, I got news for you. There's this thing called a sanding machine. It sands down the hardwood floors, get it down to the bare wood. Then we do 2 coats of stain and 2 coats of polyurethane. So for 2 coats. And here's the deal. We use the exact same color that the cat urine, right, or any kind of animal wetness, any kind of stain, it stains the wood, right? It goes through the stain, through the poly, and it makes it darker. So what do? Stain your floors dark, and what do you find? You'll find that the cat piss stains blend right into your hardwood floors. It is awesome. So that's like $3 a square foot versus $8 to $12 a square foot for installing new hardwood floors, right? Obviously, you want to do all new fixtures. So fixtures, I'm going to use a thinner marker thing here. So we got fixtures, outlets. Very important. So you always use white outlets, white light switches and stuff like that. All new hardware, right? So door hardware, door knobs, hinges, etc. That kind of stuff. All very. You can put all new hardware and outlets and stuff on the house for $1,000 or $2,000, and it totally makes the house look so much newer and much more modern. Now, here's one for you. This is. I guess this goes over here. What about lighting? The answer is you should always replace the light fixtures so that they're modern and up to date. All right, but what about a house? This especially applies to the suburbs where you've got more windows and therefore more light, right? As opposed to a row house in the city. But what about the recessed lighting? Should you put recessed lighting in the living room and the dining room, that kind of stuff? Well, maybe. It depends on the time of year, right? So when you're going to be selling this house, it's light until 9 p.m. every day. You can get away without putting high recessed lights in the living room. Pretty cool. But typically, we put those lights in. All right, So lighting is important. So aesthetics, let's finish here. In terms of the siding, let's say you've got a vinyl siding house. What can you do? You can actually paint vinyl siding. I have no clue what kind of, there's a certain kind of sealant, or what do they call that? Primer that you can put on that actually stays on the siding. We've painted siding very much. So one thing you do for the aesthetics in terms of the siding is just ask yourself, does this siding material, not the color or condition, does the siding material match at least half of the houses that I see when I stand at the end of the driveway, right? If the house you're looking at has 8-inch aluminum siding, and you go to the end of the driveway, look around, and every other house has 4-inch vinyl or stucco siding, then you probably have to replace it with 4-inch vinyl, right? But if half the houses in the neighborhood still have aluminum siding, even if it's that chalky white stuff, you pressure wash it and you paint it. You can paint it any color you want. And I'll tell you this too, for asbestos siding is perfectly safe. It's perfectly safe unless it's breaking. So when asbestos breaks, the particles get airborne and then they cause all sorts of health problems. That's the issue, but it's sitting there stagnant on the wall. Does absolutely no harm to anybody. And so if it's an ugly asbestos color, it's not a super high-end area, and if it's in good shape, just paint the darn stuff. Nothing wrong with that at all. So aesthetics are important, but you don't want to get carried away, okay? You want your property to stand out as to be the nicest looking of all the sold comps, right? Now here's where a lot of new investors get carried away, as they do all sorts of crazy nice stuff, like way high-end showers and fixtures, and the area just doesn't call for it. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, now in terms of function and layout, here's where I spend a large part of my effort in terms of deciding what gets done, what does not get done on a property. The layout of the floor, meaning the location of the walls and the rooms, and which rooms are what room, that can make or break your deal very, very quickly and very, very easily. So we are very, very intentional as to how the layout works, right? So function, let's talk layout for a second. Open floor concept sells. That's always worth doing. We always have islands. You got to be able to see some of the kitchen when you walk in the front door and that kind of stuff. Very, very important. In terms of other functions, we'll talk about, so obviously everything has to work. Anything that's there has to work well. The windows have to open and close, right? All the plumbing's got to work. The electrical's got to be operational. Anything that's intended to operate needs to operate well, okay? And if it can't be fixed easily, replace it. That's just a general rule to live by. In terms of layout, we'll talk about that. Another thing in terms of function, that's more of a safety thing, but I guess the only way to characterize it in terms of layout, open floor concept, very, very important. And look at your comps. Should you add a master bedroom? We took one house recently in Ambler. It was a 6-bedroom, 1-bath house. 6 bedrooms, 1 bath. There was a line there in the morning, I said that for sure. So anyway, what we did is we actually converted it to a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bathroom house. 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. So always ask yourself, should I add bathrooms? And whether or not it's worth it really depends, again, on the comps, right? I'll tell you, adding an extra full bathroom. So instead of one, you always want to have 1.5 bathrooms at least, but instead of 1.5, you get it to 2.5 and it still flows well, meaning one of those full bathrooms is part of a master suite. That's awesome right there. Very, very, very helpful. So that is an extremely helpful thing to do. So always look for ways to make rooms bigger, better utilize the space. And here's a tip: when you're looking to design the floor plan, always ask yourself, picture the footprint of each floor as a blank slate, a blank cloth, right? If you're or canvas, if you're an artist, right? Don't ignore the walls, ignore the windows that are on the walls, right? And just lay it out the best way that works. And then if it fits in the budget, if it makes sense, then adjust the walls accordingly. And if you do this before you buy the house, then what you can do is you can make sure you budget in for it. All right, things in terms of safety or longevity of the house always have to be done. So in terms of plumbing, right? Your plumbing's always got to work perfectly well. It's always got to be operational, right? Your electrical, if this pen works. Electrical, always got to make sure it's top notch. One of the worst things that can happen, not just from a protecting your butt kind of sort of way as a business owner, but just as a way of doing good business. The last thing in the world you want is a homeowner, after they buy your house that you, quote, thoroughly renovated, is having leaks in their living room ceilings or having electrical issues or fires, right? So you want to make sure that in terms of the systems, the operations of the house, that your property is 100%. If there's any doubt, you do it, all right? Another thing we do in terms of function is a lot of times in these old houses, again, this applies more to the suburb houses, right? You've got this insulation issue, right? So we've done a couple of houses recently that were between 80 and 130 years old, and they didn't insulate their darn houses, right? The first floor might have been masonry, and the second and third floor, no insulation whatsoever. And so my contractor called me and said, Jim, should we insulate the house? It's going to cost $2,000 or $3,000 to do it. And my answer, without hesitation, was absolutely yes. Now let me ask you a question. Am I going to get my money back out of the house if I insulate it? No way, not in 1,000 years, right? So why in the world would I do something to a house that I didn't want done? Here's why. Because if I was buying a rehab house, I would want the walls insulated, right? Here's my rule of thumb, is when I'm considering what to do and what to not do, right? You know, some things like aesthetics, either it's very apparent on the face of the matter if you've done it or not, right? But a lot of these, you know, layout, function, safety, longevity things, the buyer's assuming that you did stuff right. And so our rule of thumb is this: I want our clients, our buyers, to love us even more after they've moved into the house and lived in it than they did when they first fell in love with the home. So what does that mean? It means everything's going to work perfectly well. Everything's going to be, you know, they're not going to have any plumbing or electrical issues down the road very soon, right? Why? Because everything was renovated thoroughly and properly. So my construction costs are a little higher, but I'll tell you this, all of our buyers absolutely love us. I sleep well at night knowing that we put the best product out in the market. In terms of function and layout, you know, obviously everything's got to work well. It's going to turn off your buyers very, very quickly. And here's a little tip for you. Buyers are looking for a reason to not buy your house. Say, what? Buyers are looking for a reason to not buy your flip. Why? Here's the answer. Because there have been some, I was going to use a bad word, not going to use a bad word, some dirtbags, okay, some dirtbags in this business who do a really crappy job of rehabbing their house. And they've tarnished the name. So your job as a real estate investor is to make people love flips even more. So my point is this: if you are cutting corners, if your tile work isn't done properly, if there's just shoddy workmanship, right, done on the property, then they're going to assume that stuff behind the walls is even worse. All right. So anyway, so function and layout, you get that stuff nailed down with good aesthetics and safety and longevity, you are going to have an awesome product that will fly off the shelf at lightning speed. Again, in terms of everything I just said, on these two, the function and aesthetics, right? Keep in mind your market. Safety and longevity, you got to do it. I don't care if it's a $150,000 house or an $850,000 house. You got to do it right, okay? The point is this: on these other two things, make sure you don't over-improve or under-improve. Look at what the comps that have sold quickly had in common and make sure you match those things. So let me ask you a question. You know, all these different things that a house needs to have done to it cost a certain amount of money, more depending on the size, what type of work. So what I've done is I've actually created, this is what my assistant uses to calculate our offers, is an offer rehab calculator. What that means is you can simply punch in the item and it multiplies out the cost. It's really cool. So you know exactly what it's going to cost you to estimate or to rehab a house, even if you have absolutely no construction experience. What does this do? Well, in conjunction with the other cool tools in the rehab calculator, is it's enabled you to be able to what the heck was I going to say? Oh, it's enabled you to easily calculate your offers so that you know exactly what you're going to make before you buy the property. See, when I first got started in this business, when it was starting a lot of rehabs, I would literally have like tablets of paper where it's handwriting out the numbers of the deals, the kitchen, the bathroom, the moving the wall, all these different things that calculate out the financing cost, the property taxes times 6 months, and all these different things by hand and estimate the net profit. My math was usually right, assuming I remembered everything, but it took like 20, 30 minutes for every house. So now we're going to create a rehab offer calculator that generates those numbers for you very, very quickly. So within 12 minutes, you can easily estimate the repairs and come up with the right offer to make your minimum net profit on any deal. So I'm going to walk you through how to estimate repairs accurately and equip you with that rehab calculator on the live training. If you're watching this on Wednesday, March 1st, will be tonight. Otherwise, you're catching the recording. But anyway, you're going to love that. I'm going to walk through exactly how to use that and give you lots of tools to use it. Even going to give you the tools that you can see and have other people look at the houses for you so you don't have to actually go look at the house. It's really, really, really awesome resources. So make sure you click the link below and register for the webinar. If you're watching it live, the price is the lowest it'll ever be. If you're catching the recording, the price will have gone up. All right. So very, very important. Register for the training. It is going to knock your socks off if you want to learn how to estimate repairs quickly and easily and accurately. Then this training is for you. So register there. I will see you on the training. Thanks so much.